Kim by Rudyard Kipling. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Kim by Rudyard Kipling. Read by Adrian Pretzelis. Chapter 4, Part 1. Good luck, she is never a lady, but the cursedest queen alive, tricksy, wincing and jady, kittle to lead or drive. Greet her, she's hailing a stranger. Meet her, she's busking to leave. Let her alone for a shrew to the bone, and the hussy comes plucking your sleeve. Largesse, largesse, O fortune, give or hold at your will. If I've no care for fortune, fortune must follow me still. The Wishing Caps. Then, lowering their voices, they spoke together. Kim came to rest under a tree, but the lama tugged impatiently at his elbow. "Let us go on. The river is not here." "Hai mai! Have we not walked enough for a little? Our river will not run away. Patience, and he will give us a dole."
"This," said the old soldier suddenly, "is the Friend of the Stars. He brought me the news yesterday, having seen the very man himself in a vision, giving orders for the war."
"Hm," said his son, all deep in his broad chest.
"He came by a bizarre rumour and made profit of it."
His father laughed.
"At least he did not write to me begging for a new charger and the gods know how many rupees. Are thy brother's regiments also under orders?"
"I do not know. I took leave and came swiftly to thee in case."
"In case they ran before thee to beg. Oh, gamblers and spendthrifts all! But thou hast never yet ridden in a charge. A good horse is needed there truly. A good follower and a good pony also for the marching. Let us see, let us see." He thrummed on the pommel.
"This is no place to cast accounts in, my father. Let us go to thy house."
"At least pay the boy then. I have no pice with me, and he brought auspicious news. Oh, friend of all the world, a war is towards as thou hast said."
"Nay, as I know, the war," returned Kim composedly. "Eh?" said the lama, fingering his beads, all eager for the road. "My master does not trouble the stars for hire. We brought the news. Bear witness, we brought the news, and now we go." Kim half crooked his hand at his side. The sun tossed a silver coin through the sunlight, grumbling something about beggars and jugglers. It was a 4 anna piece, and would feed them well for some days. The lama, seeing the flash of metal, droned a blessing.
"Go thy way, friend of all the world," piped the old soldier, wheeling his scrawny mount. "For once in all my days I have met a true prophet who was not in the army."
Father and son swung round together, the old man sitting as erect as the younger. A Punjabi constable in yellow linen trousers slouched across the road. He had seen the money pass.
"Halt!"
he cried in impressive English.
"Know ye not that there is a takas of 2 annas a head, which is 4 annas, on those who enter the road from this side road? It is the order of the Sirkar, and the money is spent for the planting of trees and the beautification of the ways."
"And the bellies of the police," said Kim, skipping out of arm's reach. "Consider for a while, man with a mud head. Think you we came from the nearest pond like the frog, thy father-in-law? Hast thou ever heard the name of thy brother?"
"And who was he? Leave the boy alone,"
cried a senior constable, immensely delighted, as he squatted down to smoke his pipe in the veranda. "He took a label from the bottle of Bilati Pani (soda water), and affixing it to a bridge, collected taxes for a month from those who passed, saying it was the Sirkar's order. Then came an Englishman and broke his head. Ah, brother, I am a town crow, not a village crow." The policeman drew back abashed, and Kim hooted at him all down the road. "Was there ever such a disciple as I?" he cried merrily to the lama. "All earth would have picked thy bones within 10 miles of Lahore city if I had not guarded thee."
"I consider in my own mind whether thou art a spirit sometimes, or sometimes an evil imp," said the lama, smiling slowly.
"I am thy chela." Kim dropped into step at his side, that indescribable gait of the long-distance tramp all the world over.
"Now let us walk," muttered the lama,
and to the click of his rosary they walked in silence, mile upon mile. The lama, as usual, was deep in meditation, but Kim's bright eyes were open wide. This broad, smiling river of life, he considered, was a vast improvement on the cramped and crowded Lahore streets. There were new people and new sights at every stride, castes he knew and castes that were altogether out of his experience. They met a troop of long-haired, strong-scented Sansis, with baskets of lizards and other unclean food on their backs, their lean dogs sniffing at their heels. These people kept their own side of the road, moving at a quick, furtive jog-trot, and all other castes gave them ample room, for the Sansi is deep pollution. Behind them, walking wide and stiffly across the strong shadows, the memory of his leg iron still on him, strode one newly released from the jail, his full stomach and shiny skin to prove that the government fed its prisoners better than most honest men could feed themselves. Kim knew that walk well, and made broad jest of it as they passed. Then an Akali, a wild-eyed, wild-haired Sikh devotee in the blue-checked clothes of his faith, with polished steel quoits glistening in the cone of his tall blue turban, stalked past, returning from a visit to one of the independent Sikh states, where he had been singing the ancient glories of the Khalsa to college-trained princelings in top boots and white cord breeches. Kim was careful not to irritate that man, for the Akali's temper was short and his arm quick. Here and there they met or were overtaken by the gaily dressed crowds of whole villages turning out to some local fair. The women, with their babes on their hips, walking behind the men, the older boys prancing on sticks of sugar cane, dragging rude brass models of locomotives such as they sell for a halfpenny, or flashing the sun into the eyes of their betters from cheap toy mirrors. One could see at a glance what each had brought, and if there were any doubt it needed only to watch the wives comparing, brown arm against brown arm, the newly purchased dull glass bracelets that come from the northwest. These merrymakers stepped slowly, calling one to the other, and stopping to haggle with sweetmeat sellers, or to make a prayer before one of the wayside shrines, sometimes Hindu, sometimes Mussulman, which the low caste of both creeds share with beautiful impartiality. A solid line of blue, rising and falling like the back of a caterpillar in haste, would swing up through the quivering dust and trot past to a chorus of quick cackling. That was a gang of Changars, the women who have taken all the embankments of all the northern railways under their charge, a flat-footed, big-bosomed, strong-limbed, blue-petticoated clan of earth-carriers, hurrying north on news of a job and wasting no time by the road. They belonged to the caste whose men do not count, and they walked with squared elbows, swinging hips and heads on high, as suits women who carry heavy weights. A little later a marriage procession would strike into the Grand Trunk, with music and shoutings, and a smell of marigold and jasmine stronger even than the reek of the dust. One could see the bride's litter, a blur of red and tinsel, staggering through the haze, while the bridegroom's bewreathed pony turned aside to snatch a mouthful from a passing fodder cart. Then Kim would join the Kentish fire of good wishes and bad jokes, wishing the couple 100 sons and no daughters, as the saying is. Still more interesting and more to be shouted over it was when a strolling juggler with some half-trained monkeys, or panting feeble bear, or a woman who tied goat's horns to her feet, and with those danced on a slack rope, set the horses to shying and the women to shrill, long-drawn quavers of amazement. The lama never raised his eyes. He did not note the money-lender on his goose-rumped pony, hastening along to collect the cruel interest, or the long-shouting, deep-voiced little mob, still in military formation, of native soldiers on leave, rejoicing to be rid of their breeches and puttees, and saying the most outrageous things to the most respectable women in sight. Even the seller of Ganges water he did not see, and Kim expected that he would at least buy a bottle of that precious stuff. He looked steadily at the ground, and strode as steadily hour after hour, his soul busied elsewhere. But Kim was in the seventh heaven of joy. The Grand Trunk at this point was built on an embankment to guard against winter floods from the foothills, so that one walked, as it were, a little above the country, along a stately corridor, seeing all India spread out to left and right. It was beautiful to behold the many-yoked grain and cotton wagons crawling over the country roads. One could hear their axles complaining a mile away, coming nearer, till with shouts and yells and bad words they climbed up the steep incline and plunged on to the hard main road, carter reviling carter. It was equally beautiful to watch the people, little clumps of red and blue and pink and white and saffron, turning aside to go to their own villages, dispersing and growing small by twos and threes across the level plain. Kim felt these things, though he could not give tongue to his feelings, and so contented himself with buying peeled sugar-cane and spitting the pith generously about his path. From time to time the lama took snuff, and at last Kim could endure the silence no longer. "This is a good land, the land of the south," said he. "The air is good, the water is good, eh?" "And they are all bound upon the wheel," said the lama. "Bound from life to life. To none of these has the way been shown." He shook himself back to this world. "And now we have walked a weary way," said Kim. "Surely we shall soon come to a parao (a resting place). Shall we stay there? Look, the sun is sloping."
"Who will receive us this evening?"
"That is all one. The country is full of good folks. Besides," he sunk his voice beneath a whisper, "we have money." The crowd thickened as they neared the resting place which marked the end of their day's journey. A line of stalls selling very simple food and tobacco, a stack of firewood, a police station, a well, a horse trough, a few trees, and under them some trampled ground dotted with the black ashes of old fires, are all that mark a parao on the Grand Trunk, if you except the beggars and the crows, both hungry. By this time the sun was delving broad golden strokes through the lower branches of the mango trees. The parakeets and doves were coming home in their hundreds. The chattering, grey-backed Seven Sisters, talking over the day's adventures, walked back and forth in twos and threes almost under the feet of the travellers, and the shufflings and scufflings in the branches showed that the bats were ready to go out on the night picket. Swiftly the light gathered itself together, painted for an instant the faces and the cart-wheels and the bullocks' horns as red as blood. Then the night fell, changing the touch of the air, drawing a low, even haze like a gossamer veil of blue across the face of the country, and bringing out keen and distinct the smell of wood smoke and cattle and the good scent of wheaten cakes cooked on ashes. The evening patrol hurried out of the police station with important coughings and reiterated orders, and a live charcoal ball in the cup of a wayside carter's hookah glowed red, while Kim's eyes mechanically watched the last flicker of the sun on the brass tweezers. The life of the parao was like that of the Kashmir Serai, on a small scale. Kim dived into the happy Asiatic disorder which, if you only allow time, will bring you everything that a simple man needs. His wants were few, because, since the lama had no caste scruples, cooked food from the nearest stall would serve. But, for luxury's sake, Kim brought a handful of dung cakes to build a fire. All about, coming and going round the little flames, men cried for oil or grain or sweetmeats or tobacco, jostling one another while they waited their turn at the well. And under the men's voices you heard from halted, shuttered carts the high squeals and giggles of women whose faces should not be seen in public. Nowadays well-educated natives are of opinion that when their womenfolk travel, and they visit a good deal, it is better to take them quickly by rail in a properly screened compartment, and that custom is spreading. But there are always those of the old rock who hold by the use of their forefathers, and above all there are always the old women, more conservative than the men, who toward the end of their days go on a pilgrimage. They, being withered and undesirable, do not, under certain circumstances, object to unveiling. After their long seclusion, during which they have always been in business touch with 1,000 outside interests, they love the bustle and stir of the open road, the gatherings at the shrines, and the infinite possibilities of gossip with like-minded dowagers. Very often it suits a long-suffering family that a strong-tongued, iron-willed old lady should disport herself about India in this fashion, for certainly pilgrimage is grateful to the gods. So all about India, in the most remote places as in the most public, you find some knot of grizzled servitors in nominal charge of an old lady who is more or less curtained and hid away in a bullock cart. Such men are staid and discreet, and when a European or high-caste native is near, will net their charge with most elaborate precautions. But in the ordinary haphazard chances of pilgrimage, the precautions are not taken. The old lady is, after all, intensely human, and lives to look upon life. Kim marked down a gaily ornamented ruth, or family bullock cart, with a broidered canopy of 2 domes, like a double-humped camel, which had just been drawn into the parao. 8 men made its retinue, and 2 of the 8 were armed with rusty sabres, sure signs that they followed a person of distinction, for the common folk do not bear arms. An increasing cackle of complaints, orders and jests, and what to a European would have been bad language, came from behind the curtain. Here was evidently a woman used to command. Kim looked over the retinue critically. Half of them were thin-legged, grey-beard Uras from down country. The other half were duffle-clad, felt-hatted hillmen of the north. And that mixture told its own tale, even if he had not overheard the incessant sparring between the 2 divisions. The old lady was going south on a visit, probably to a rich relative, most probably to a son-in-law who had sent up an escort as a mark of respect. The hillmen would be of her own people, Kulu or Kangra folk. It was quite clear that she was not taking her daughter down to be wedded, or the curtains would have been laced home and the guard would have allowed no one near the car. A merry and high-spirited dame, thought Kim, balancing the dung cake in one hand, the cooked food in the other, and piloting the lama with a nudging shoulder. Something might be made out of the meeting. The lama would give no help, but as a conscientious chela, Kim was delighted to beg for 2. End of Chapter 4, Part 1.